Running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans, welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there on this Monday, June 24th of 2024? Try and say that 3 times fast. It is episode number 94. And if you hadn't noticed, I am on my lonesome here. Dave is not going to be hanging out tonight. He decided to go gallivant over in the mountains in the Grand Canyon over Vegas, Nevada, doing his thing. So I decided to let him go. And as in let him go, he told me he was going. But I am here. We do have another fantastic guest here. Before we get into all the fun stuff, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on X, hello to everybody. We appreciate you all watching. If you're over on X, give this a follow. Give us a follow. Give us a repost. All that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button. Share the show. And if you're watching on Facebook, go and give us a follow over there because, that's something new. And we're excited to be streaming there as well. So we are on our quest for more subscribers and more followers on YouTube. We're happy that we are up 3. We're almost to 50, which was our goal. So we're at 48 subs. And over on X, we're up 2. We're up to 1,039, and we're trying to get to 1,250. So let's get us there. And we will get there because we always have awesome guests. So last week, we did a great show. We had lots of fun. We had some technical difficulties, but we had a blast talking to mainland junior distance phenom Sophia Day and her coach, Dan Heyman. It was really good. I have no idea how all these high schoolers are so freaking put together right now. And we could throw Quincy Wilson into that because he is an absolute madman. And I think the whole entire country is rooting for Quincy to make the team right now. And we could talk a little more about that later. So definitely go back, give that show a watch, give it a listen. As I shout out every week, registration is open for the 3rd annual River Rock and Run 5K. Saturday, November 16th, Adam Nalvin puts on a great 5K over there. You can do a relay with 2 people, so each of you go run 1.5 miles. You could do the full 5K. There's food at the end. There's beer at the end. And the best part, 100% of the proceeds go towards Monmouth and Ocean County food banks. So if you're in the area, go sign up. It's a great cause. It is a fun run. It is a good time. So this is the time typically where we'll do our PRs, but we don't have any PRs this week. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest because she has a lot to do with what is going on this week. So jumping in, I am happy to bring on Marissa Kalsey. Did I say your name wrong? Kalsey,
like the first name.
There you go. Marissa Kalsey. And she is a pro pole vaulter and she is a qualifier for the 2024 Olympic trials to try and represent the US of A. Marissa, how's it going on?
Hi, good. How are you, Alex? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm pumped to have you on. And like I said, you kind of go on with the theme because I want to give a massive shout out to the guests that we've had on in the past before we get going with all of our fun stuff here. We've had some amazing performances already from some of our athletes, and we have some upcoming ones, including yourself. You are now officially a Talking in Ovals, athlete going to the qualifiers. But a big shout out to Capers Williamson, finishing second in the javelin. I want everyone to go back and listen to the episode with Capers. He was fantastic. He doesn't currently have the Olympic standard, so we're hoping the world rankings will push him there. But man, finishing second on the road that he's had is incredible. Matt Ludwig finished 5th in the men's pole vault, had a gutsy, ballsy performance. Proud of him. Eric Holt ran, fantastic in the trials for the 15. Couldn't quite get it there in the semis. He'll be back in the 800 though, so we're excited for him. Jordan Geist finishing 4th in the shot. Oh, so close, but he's coming back in the hammer. And then we have Hope Bender, who is finishing up her heptathlon as we speak tonight. Elena Bruckner is competing in the disc right now, sitting in 3rd in the first flight. So we're pushing for her. Josette Andrews competing in the 5K finals tonight has a real good chance of making that team. We have Derek Holdsworth, Clayton Murphy also in the 800, and then Tanner Berg and Justin Stafford in the hammer. And of course, Marissa, you're in the pole vault. So all the athletes,
looking forward to it.
We're pumped for all of you. Now, I want to get into the show with you because we're going to do our normal show that we do with you, which I'm super excited for because it is all about you. So first things first, when did you get the spark to grab a pole, stick it in the ground, and go over very high things? When was the moment that it kind of clicked, like this is something that you want to do?
I will say not right away. I did track in high school, and I just remember the pole vault coach, who I still, have a relationship with and talk to, Coach Brunel. He has been just such a big part of my life. But it's funny. I remember hearing that he said, I'd love for this girl to pole vault. I feel like she has, the body type and the mechanics to pole vault. And I was not interested. It was something I was doing hurdles and I thought that was my thing. And so, anyways, I did a bunch of the other events, and finally I wasn't really finding something that was my niche, I guess. And my dad ended up saying, why don't you just try all the events you've never done before? There was like a track day at the very beginning of each season, and we could try whatever it is that we wanted. And so I just put down a bunch of events I hadn't tried, like high jump, pole vault, long jump, triple jump, and pole vault stuck. It was something that I just loved, that it was like, so my coach was right to be, it was something that I feel like everybody starts from square one. Nobody can pick up a pole and bend it and jump high right away. And I loved that about it. Nobody was just, there was not a whole lot of like raw talent. It was a lot of hard work for everybody, level playing field. So.
And that we just love getting all the different stories, because most of the time it's like we have a lot of distance runners on, and a lot of the times it's like, and we did another sport, and it's just runners in general. But it's like fun to hear someone coming from within the track sphere, right? That we all do kind of look at pole vaulters like, man, they're crazy. What are they doing? Like, they're out of their minds. What are they doing? Like, because we've seen the horror stories of the poles cracking and things like that. It's like, yeah, nope, not doing any of that.
Right.
And so it's cool to have a different perspective coming in. And I will say, I would have loved to have a track day, because after my freshman year, my coach was like, yeah, you're not doing anything but distance. I'll kill you if you try. So I was kind of,
he was like, you're sticking to that.
Yeah, I was a pretty good miler and 2-miler. And he's like, yeah, don't try. I'm like, can I do the 400 hurdles? He's like, no. I'm like, come on. So yeah, no, I wasn't allowed to do anything else, but that's awesome.
Yeah, the track day was great. And to have my dad just be like, hey, just try it all, and it stuck. And I'm glad I did, because it was something I never really would have, I didn't really gravitate towards. And but it all, once I started, and there are advantages, of course, like taller, and there is like a certain, I feel like, I don't know, now I guess it's a little broader now, but a certain body type that, you can kind of pick out a pole vaulter, I guess. But yeah, for the most part, like, you don't pick up a pole. I know a lot of people ask that question. They're like, were you scared the first time you picked up a pole and jumped, really high? But it really doesn't start like that. It's like, I always explain it. It's almost like you pick it up and you grip really low to begin. It's almost like crossing a river with like you're not even bending it. You just kind of jump onto the pit, and then you go up, and you keep like working your way up. And it's such a, a build of progress over time.
And you don't really become a pole vaulter until you actually learn to just attack the pit, right? Like, you can't just like place it in there. Like, you have to forcibly, and do not stare at the pit. Your coach will murder you. So it's like there are some intricacies that go into it, which you wouldn't think. And it's just, lots of fun. I always like talking to field people, because I wasn't a field person. So it's always nice. Now, did you do any other sports before trying track, or was track kind of something you gravitated to?
Yeah, man, I tried a lot of sports. I was not very, what do you call it? Like, with like any type of ball sport, I wasn't like hand-eye coordination, I guess, maybe. I wasn't naturally like good at that. I tried volleyball, I tried soccer, I tried softball, I tried, like, I did dance for a long time and cheerleading, and but yeah, I tried a lot of different sports, and it took me a while to find my niche. I tried cross country, and but yeah, it's funny, because I never loved something as much as soon as I found pole vault, I was like, okay, this is the one. Like, I kind of moved forward just with that and focused on that. So
you're quite literally the epitome of, at first you don't succeed, try again, right? Like, you just didn't give up. You were destined to be an athlete, whether fate wanted you to be or not. And now look at you. You have the chance to, compete at the highest stage in the country right now, and the highest stage in the world for our sport. So has that pinched you yet? Like, we're not going to get completely into the trials, but has it, like, as an athlete, and I know your coach is probably going to like want to smack me for even getting you to think like this, but As an athlete, has it like come to you yet? Like, man, if I just go out and, rock this, I can be going to another country with, the United States across my chest and representing. Like, has that kind of hit you? Or are you still trying to stay focused and locked in for the meet? Because I know you leave tomorrow to go to Europe.
Yeah,
So,
I do. Yeah. I've definitely thought about it, but at the same time, I think my experience making the mark to make trials was just so, I hate to say the word unexpected, but it was my very, very last chance. I had been training all season, competing all season to try to get the mark. And actually, I missed it. The last trials, I had missed it by just a couple spots and
ah,
just a few just inches. It might have been even centimeters because I think it was, yeah. But it's like, it was just devastating. And so this year, trying to get that mark again, it just felt like each meet would go by and it gets closer and closer to the cutoff date to qualify. And it was a lot of pressure built up, for that. And so I had one last opportunity, and I think just being at that meet and being able to do it in that one last chance, like, makes me just so grateful to just get the opportunity to go, because I know what it was like the last time when I missed it. And it was just, I just didn't want that to happen again. You train for all these years, and and it's not all about, of course that's our goal, that we train in hopes to be able to compete at the Olympics, but there's a lot more to the journey than sometimes what people realize. I know you and I were talking earlier about just being a pro athlete, being a post collegiate athlete. There's so many different opportunities, especially in track and field, that are just as that are very, very competitive
oh
as,
yeah.
but just because the US is so
In
highly competitive.
especially over the last like 6 years, and especially the last two worlds, like just dominating the
Yeah.
medal count, like the expectation level, I don't think has ever been higher in terms of when you get on that national team. So, are you relishing right now being the underdog? Is that kind of something where you're just like, no one's going to expect, a little old Marissa to come in and blow their doors off? So, are you kind of like relishing the moment where you're coming in like you're not one of the, expected seeds? Like, to just come in and just do something shocking and shock the world?
Yeah, I love a good underdog story, and I think a lot of people do. I know when I was watching the guys, I was just like, of course, I've met most of them at this, well, all of them at
Devastated
this
for
point,
Casey.
and
Really devastated for Casey.
oh, so
Oh my god.
devastating. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, that was hard to watch. But I do love a good underdog story, and yeah, it's one of those things. I'm so excited to just go lay it all out there, because at this
Yeah.
point it's like there's nothing to lose. I feel like I definitely know I have more in me, and I saw it at the last meet, and so I'm just ready to try to like put it all out there on the day that it would be the best day to possibly do that. So
Exactly. Why not you, right? Why not you? So
yeah.
I want to jump back into your path getting up to here.
Mhm.
And I want you to take me to from when you first started doing it to high school, through college, through your pro experience. What have been some of your favorite memories of being a pole vaulter, whether it's winning a championship or getting a PR or, watching a teammate do something great? Like, what are some of your favorite memories you've had?
Yeah, one of them, like my favorites that come to mind is I had just a huge comeback in 2017 in college. I did a fifth year because I had a really bad injury. I broke my weight bearing bone in my talus, and
Ow.
I just remember talking to the doctor, and I asked right away, when will I be able to pole vault again? I was still trying to get. I had gotten like second and third in the national championships, and I was still trying for that first place. And I was hoping that I could get a fifth year. And the first thing he said was, he looked at me and he's like, I don't think you realize the seriousness of this injury. And he didn't think I would be able to pole vault again. And he said, and if you do, it won't be at a high level. Like, it won't be where you are now. And that was in college, so And
Which
so
where we
then
think we're adults, but we're really not. We're still mentally incredibly like fragile at that point.
right, right, yeah, yeah. And I was jumping, lower than I am now, quite a bit
Yeah.
lower. And so I just was like, well, I guess, but I was like, I'm gonna see what I can do. I mean, I'm never gonna know if I don't just try to come back from
Yeah.
it. And I did, and then I won the national championship and set a PR
It's incredible.
by quite a bit. I jumped like 13:10 and that season, and did it all at nationals, like on the day, just kind of same. It kind of was a
Let's do
similar
it.
feeling to
Same setup,
what I
baby.
did here at the Katie Moon meet. So that was one of my favorites because I met like Katerina Stefanidi there. She was
Yeah.
watching and cheering me on, and afterwards she asked me if I was going to continue pole vaulting, and at the time I was hoping to, but to hear that from her that she saw that potential in me, was really an awesome moment. And so that's definitely one of my favorites. I got a couple more too.
I just want to say before you jump into that, one of the main big things that I've discovered from talking to so many of like elite athletes like yourself, and I know, it's probably weird to hear, but you are an absolute elite athlete in the planet. But
Yeah.
it's like all of you guys have been through a lot of hardship, whether it's a bad injury or something like that. And it's like, it's that road that everyone has to get through, and it separates you guys from us normies, right? Like, I've been through some injuries and they buckled me. Like, I couldn't, get past that in college. And, neither here nor there, but it's like the elite athletes can get past these things, and you guys get through these, like your career is over. And it's like, well, no, it isn't. I decide when my career is over, not any injury. And like, you kind of bully yourselves, and it's fantastic. And I think it's something that, all athletes, and I don't care what generation it is, but this generation has a pretty bad rap for not being as, strong or whatever. But for any kid to hear, like, just because it seems bad there, do not take your foot off the gas, heal up, and then get right back on it. And that's just, it's always cool to hear those types of things. It was like, I had a devastating injury. Now I'm at the trials, and that was 7 years ago. And now here I am going to be at the Olympic trials. So that's just
Yeah.
really cool. Really, really cool to hear.
Thank you. Yeah. Honestly, too, I've been writing this quote down recently because it seems to keep showing up kind of along the lines of what you're saying. It keeps showing up, it seems like, in my career. Like, just that it seems like the best victories always come after like the darkest storms, always like the things that I have to persevere through, like when I qualified for trials and it all happened on that day, like I explained to you, my entire family was there. I mean, and that was probably one of my favorite moments of my career. And just to do it on that day. And I had this past season, I just moved to Louisville, let's see, 8 months ago, 9 months ago now. And so it was a lot of newness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had really, even before I moved here, I started to struggle mentally, just with pole vault. I was running through. I couldn't figure out my run. I was like up 5 feet and then back 5 feet. And it was just, I was having the worst mental struggle of my career that I've ever had.
And for those that don't know, having a proper distance in these types of, intricate events like your pole vault, your long jump, your high jump, that's everything. Because then you're trying to replicate the same stride length, the same speed. And if you don't have your steps down, that's like 80 to 90% of the battle going into it. The getting over the pole, the work was done on that
Yeah.
runway before you ever, plant that pole in. So it's, as you're hearing Marissa talk about going 5 feet up and that's a lot. That's
Mhm.
huge in terms of difference. So that's
Yeah.
really tough.
You're so right. I mean, it's just because it's all about, on the runway. And if you can't trust that run, you're doubting yourself, and then it's kind of snowballs. And
Yeah.
so it was one of the hardest struggles. But again, it was like I had the best victory after that. And it just all like came together in a moment where I was like, man, all that hard work and like pushing through and like wondering if if I was going to be able to get back, and it was all like worth it for that moment, for that victory.
And it's like somewhere inside of yourself, you still believed in yourself, whether or not you had it outwardly, whether or not you were thinking about it. there was something inside of you that wouldn't let you stop, right? And
Exactly.
one of the things that I like to say, like, as I've gotten older, and a phrase that like I try to teach my kids is keep your feet moving forward. Never try to go back. One foot in front of the other. You don't have to run, just walk in terms of just life, right? Always move forward because you're going to move whether you want to or not. If you push back against it, you're still going to go forward. So just keep going. And that's
Yeah.
and that's kind of something that you did, whether subconsciously or not, but you kept on training, you kept on showing up, you kept on trying, and giving an effort is all you could do. Waking up, not making excuses, because it would be real easy to be like, Coach, I feel terrible, I can't come today. And you're a grown woman. What is he going to say? Like, you should be here, but okay, like
Right.
this is your money, like you're a pro, that's it. Like,
Yeah,
so
that's a great way to put it. The one foot in front of the other, because my coach and I talked about that. I'd go to her and just be like, man, I know you have so much knowledge to give, and I want to like work with you on that. And it just stinks that I'm like, you're seeing like, this isn't me as an athlete. And it just, she would just say, she would say, like you said, you're showing up, you're doing the work, like keep moving forward because it's gonna pay off. And it did, and she was right.
how important is that relationship with your coach now? Because I'd imagine, like, we always thought we see the importance, right? But especially in field, which it could be so secluded, and we haven't advanced enough as a freaking sport to have real teams, which I think is insane. I think everyone needs to stop holding things so close to the vest, and we need to start working together more, which we're seeing more distance teams doing. I think we need to get there with every other part. But how important is that to have that relationship? And to have that trust, I see, the biggest one in pole vault, Armando Duplantis.
Mhm.
Every time he does a great thing, he goes right to his coach and then his family. And it's like that, obviously, that relationship is strong. And the greatest pole vaulter of all time still believes in what his coach is telling him, right? So, how
Right.
important is that for you to have your relationship with your coach, that you trust her in what she's telling you to do, the adjustments she's telling you to make?
It's huge. I mean, she has been like, I know deep down how committed she is and how just trustworthy she is. And she knows she has a good eye for the sport. And she's also good at like telling me what I need in that moment. Sometimes you need encouragement. Sometimes you need a little bit of a push, like a little bit of, sometimes you need a little bit of tougher love. And she's very good at identifying what I need in each moment. And I do think it's important to coach to the athlete because every athlete is different. And so,
You
but
can
I've been
have a
really lucky.
style, but you need to be willing to bend it at times.
Exactly, exactly. I've been really lucky to have a lot of coaches. I mean, I had coaches in Tennessee. Now I'm in Louisville and college. Like I've had coaches that are very good at being able to recognize that and work with me to just get to know me as an athlete. And so I think that's really important. So
Our co-host Dave is trying to get in from Vegas, it looks like.
I saw
I was
that.
gonna I was gonna let him jump in and say hi, but I think his service is awful. He's trying to jump in, but we'll see if we can get him in at some point. But
Okay.
it is, that's exactly, that is, incredibly important. And so what is it like being in such a position where it is such a secluded thing? Do you find making friendships with the other pole vaulters that you see at all the other meets? Because, like I said, there are no teams, which I think is actually crazy for something like pole vault, right? I feel like it would help you to maybe have two or three of your peers, male or female, to just outside of your coach critique each other. Because I remember one of the biggest things in high school and college, it was like
Mhm.
your coach could see things, but then there's also your fellow athletes that are looking at you. They're with you every day. Um, is that something that you see that you would like to advance in the sport where, we can maybe get you with a few other ladies or even like a guy or two, like to just, again, outside the coach, just going out to dinner and bouncing things off and those types of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's beneficial. And the good thing is, I mean, we don't really have teams like you're saying, but a lot of the pole vaulters train with other pole vaulters. That's actually pretty
That's
common. I
good.
mean, not all of them, but
Yeah.
it's pretty common that we have these little training groups in different areas. Like that's actually why I was in Tennessee. There was a group
Okay.
of us, and I started out there with Tim Mack, and then Mark Hollis was my coach, and that was before I moved to work with Brooke. But like there we had a pretty large training group with a bunch of athletes that just yeah, cheer each other on, train together, go to workouts together, push each other. And now in Louisville, I have Gabby Leon, who, if you look her up, yeah,
Yeah.
she's awesome. And
Gabby's
I mean,
awesome.
she'll be going to trials too. And
Yep.
she is a really good shot at the team. And so she has been really amazing to train with. I feel like she's a really good person to push me and help me. And I feel like I help her as well, just being able to, like you said, bounce ideas off of each other and cheer for each other at practice. Like today we had a vault practice and we were both just cheering each other on. So I think it is important. And not only, at practice, the good thing about the pole vault community is everybody is just so like happy for everybody else when they PR. Everybody's cheering everybody on. And within the pole vault community, we all hang out together. We all know each other. We all genuinely want to see each other succeed. And I noticed that a lot at just some of the meets I've been to this year. People really, like, when I made the trials mark, I had so many ladies come up to me that day and just say how happy they were for me. And, they knew the situation that I had been trying to get it. And so it is special. And I think pole vaults especially, I don't know if it's because it's a mental sport, but I think everybody has this just such a genuine, want to see each other succeed. But we also have competitive edge.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's when we get out there, we are cheering for each other. I mean, a lot of times it's during the competition we're cheering each other
Awesome.
on. So
So what's stopping you guys from putting the same name on a jersey though, or on a singlet or something? And because yes, sponsorships aren't there and a plenty for everyone, right? But we see people making teams like we had Eric Holt on, and Eric Holt's a part of Empire Elite, and they put 3 people at the trials.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you guys were able to do things like that, it may help notoriety, right? Like,
I agree.
doing something corny too. Call yourselves like the Jazzy Jumpers, like whatever it is,
Yeah.
like getting noticed. Because I feel like that would be, if you ladies can get something together and even include some guys, like whatever you want to do, just
Mm-hmm.
create a group. So then when we sit there, and I feel like that's part of the issue with the sport. I don't know Marissa Kalsey. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a casual, who the hell is she?
Right.
But that singlet I see, oh, she's wearing it. There's a guy. So
Mm-hmm.
they must be a part of the same team. Who are they? Click, click, click. Like that, we are very prone in America to knowing teams in a lot of ways. And yes, we have individual sports and tennis and things like that, but track isn't at that level yet. But I feel like if you see a few people with the same single, it's like that's one of the questions I get all the time when I'm watching track. Like, wait a minute, they're both wearing the same Nike thing. Are they on the same team? No, they're just both sponsored by Nike. And it's like, wait a minute, but why are they wearing the same thing? And it's, my answer is, pardon my French, fucked if I know. Like, right, like I have no clue. And I'm someone that loves the sport. I obviously know the people, but it's like for a casual, if we could do
Mm-hmm.
things like that, I feel like that would be sick. Because how cool would it be, like having those teams go up there? And I don't know. That's just me spitballing. Where you guys creating that community on your own would maybe also attract sponsors. Because if you guys get bigger on social media, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many other ways that we could, get better here.
I agree. I know that there are some people that kind of do that in a way with like clubs. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll represent their club um, where they coach, and a lot of times there will be, a couple different vaulters
Yeah.
that train at that club. So I've seen it done in that way. I think one of the things that probably stops us from doing that, but I do like that idea, and it can be done. But I do think that, like, the sponsored athletes, because you're required to wear
Yeah.
whatever it is you're sponsored by, I think that's where, obviously they wouldn't be able to represent that team. Like Gabby is actually Puma,
Mhm.
or, any of the other sponsored athletes are required to wear their brand. But which, I think, of course, like anybody would, if I was offered, if I could get to the point and accomplish what I needed to be able to be offered a scholarship or
It's essentially the same
sponsorship,
thing. Sponsorship,
right?
scholarship, same thing.
A sponsorship, then I would, take it, no questions asked, of course. But yeah, I think that's probably part of why
I feel like
requirements with that.
the unsponsored athletes should make the sponsored one feel like Outcast when you guys have the cool shirts and the cool uniforms and they have the lame ones.
Yeah, we could kind of have our own. I mean, that's true. And I
You
do
may
know
get paid to do it, but we look cooler.
yeah, there are some athletes, like I have a friend that's sponsored by a smaller company, and
Yeah.
I've looked into some of those ideas, trying to reach out to companies like that. And obviously it's just a matter of talking to the right person and
Yeah.
networking. So but it would be cool to just put together, make your own. You can make your own, because we wear what we want. That the
Definitely.
unsponsored
Exactly.
athletes wear
Exactly.
whatever it is that you're competing in. So
So that's an idea for trials if you haven't already yet. Get
yeah.
with a few ladies and just be like, hey, let's get these on Amazon now. No,
Yeah.
you probably all have your tights and everything ready to go already. But that could
Yeah.
be a future idea. But
That would be a good future idea
but
for
you know what
sure.
though? The goal is to get you in the Team USA singlet soon. See, haha. See what
Yes,
I did
that
there?
would be awesome for sure.
So I interrupted you with your last few memories. I want to hear them still. What are your other few memories that
Oh yeah, well my one was about the last meet with the trials.
Katie Moon one? Yep. Yep.
Yeah, making that and just having my entire family there was so memorable.
Yeah.
And then one of my full circle moments, which I've had a couple of these, just meeting pole vaulters that were on my wall. Like for example, Stacy Dragila was
Yep.
somebody that whenever I first started pole vaulting, she was obviously, like, she was the woman that started it all for
Mhm.
women. And it just, I had a poster of her, and I just remember when there was an English class that our teacher told us, this is an in your shoes project. So you're going to write to somebody that you wish you could be in their shoes. Like that if you have no limitations, don't think about money, don't think about, whatever it is. But if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And you're going to write a letter to that person. And so I picked Stacy Dragila.
That's so cool.
And yeah, and that was in high school. I was jumping, and I think it was, let's see, maybe sophomore or junior year. So I wasn't jumping crazy high. But I just thought if I could do anything, it would be that. So wrote a letter. She sent me spikes. She sent me signed
That's
things.
so cool.
And it's just like, that was such a cool moment for me in high school. But I mean, of course, it was like a pipe dream. I never actually thought I would be vaulting, with women like that. And I ended up, I mean, I've met her a few times in
Did you
Reno.
tell her about that?
I told her, I said, do you remember sending me spikes? And I told her about it. And it's just moments like that. It's like I walk away and I'm like, man, what a full circle moment. Like I didn't realize, as a young girl, like writing that, I didn't really think I would be in the position to be meeting her and competing with Olympic gold medalists and, people that, and it's cool. It's a full circle moment when something like that happens. So
See, Dave and I went the cheap route and we started a podcast where we could talk to our idols instead. And we're not meeting them because we're good athletes. We're meeting them because we're washed up athletes and we
hey,
want to hear about their athletic prowess. Like we got to talk to Johnny Gray, Dave Waddle, and obviously Clayton Murphy and things like that. Like I talked to Kadivas Robinson, who I grew up loving in the 800. So it's like we cheated. We didn't go the whole entire. We didn't do it on merit. We did it on, hey, we have a screen and some mics. Let's do this.
But yeah, there you go. You get the experience of getting excited to meet that person,
We
and
still
it's
figured out
like
a way.
meeting an idol of your
Yeah.
somebody that you really look up to. And so yeah, I've had quite a few of those with Katerina Stefanidi was another one that I told you a few things, and then competed with her a few times, and just and Katie Najat, she was one of the first ones I reached out to when Katie Moon now, but I had reached out to her, when I was first thinking about post collegiate vaulting, and I was like, what is it like? How do you, navigate it? Like, what's your job? I was asking her different questions about post collegiate life, and and now I see her a little more often than I ever would have thought, I guess. So
I found that to be the craziest part, and you probably are there as well, when like you look in your phone at times and you're like, I have that person's number in my phone and I can text them and they'll text back. Like it's like that, like those
right.
moments where it's like, wait a minute, when did I ever think that that would be a thing, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of a cool little pinch me moment that I've had doing this, and you probably have. But the crazy thing is, though, you're in that class, and that's something that I think is like pretty dope. Like You're in
For
that
sure.
class. You're competing at the trials. Like, and I tell everyone, it's like you are one of the top athletes on the planet at this moment. Like that is like something crazy. And everyone that's competing at the trials right now, there's 1,000 people there, but 1,000 is such a
Mhm.
drop in the bucket in terms of like the population, right? Like so
Yeah,
it
that's
is. It's wild. Like 1,000 seems like a big number when you're there in Eugene and everyone's walking around, but it's like it's really not. And so it's like,
yeah,
and so I want to talk a little more about the trials. You're
yeah.
coming in there, and like you said, you're kind of relishing the underdog. What are your expectations? What have you talked about with coach in terms of obviously the goal is to make the Olympic team? And is that the mindset? Is that the expectation going in? Just, rocking it, PRing every single jump and making this team?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to lay it all out there. And I think that I definitely have a lot more height left in me to be able to bring out on that day. And I know one of the things Coach and I have talked about is just taking it day by day, and even sometimes jump by jump. Height by height, I guess you could say.
Attempt
Um,
by attempt, right?
oh,
Because
right,
short memories, you need to
right,
have it, right?
exactly. Just breaking it down because like really the first step is getting to finals, getting in that top 12 to the second day, because obviously that's where you can compete, on that day to have a hope to make the team. But I do think it's very possible that, I mean, I feel like I have, we don't necessarily know the height for the second day, but I think we have a pretty good idea of somewhere around what should make it. And I do think that I have that ready to jump now. And so I think I have a really good chance of making it to the second day. And I think from there, then it's just, like we said, taking it attempt by attempt, jump by jump, height by height, and just trying to stay in it and compete. And you never know what can happen. You really don't. So.
What is the biggest challenge and difference between going to just, a meet at like the ATL, the American Track League, versus one of these high profile events, your NCAAs, your trials, your nationals, and things like that? Katie Moon Ball, even though it was fun,
Mhm.
it's a high profile event. There's expectation there, right? What's the difference between some of those meets, and what is like, a challenge that, maybe you haven't foreseen but could come from your experience at other high profile events?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I do tell a lot of the young vaulters, when I'm talking to them about opportunities like that, that even though they're uncomfortable, like I know the first time I went to USA's or Reno, or where you're at this big meet with those people that I was talking about, that you're just like, oh my gosh, I've only seen this person in videos or whatever. I think at first it can be really difficult to adjust to. It's a lot of pressure. You almost feel that sense of they call it imposter syndrome, or like you don't feel like you belong. And but what I tell young kids is like, take those, because every one of those I've taken, and that's what my coaches always told me, like every time you make it to USA's, you go, no matter like if you feel ready or not, you go, because every time you compete against those women, you become more and more comfortable. And now, I mean, I'm at that point where, I've competed with them enough times to feel
Yeah.
really confident about like feeling like I'm there to compete, and like I can compete, and I can stay with, I can stay in it, and really be a competitor. And I think that's probably the biggest difference of a meet like that versus like um, a smaller meet or something that's not as high level. I think it's just the pressure of feeling like, you have to like step up almost.
And I feel like, definitely kind of more seems like an almost any other meet because you do know these ladies at this point. So
Mhm.
it's not that pedestal anymore that maybe
Right.
it once was, where it's like, I am one of them. I've seen them enough. We qualify for the same events. Like,
Exactly.
they're not just all to me. They're looking at me as well as somebody that is competitive and a
Yeah.
threat. And so
I agree.
when
That's
it
why it's important to like continue to do it, because you get to that point. Once you practice it enough, you get to that point where it feels more comfortable.
It's funny you mentioned the imposter syndrome because we mentioned it a ton of times on this because one of our favorite shows was with Julie Cully, who won
Okay.
the 2012 5K in the USATFs. It wasn't Olympic trials, but it was the nationals. And
Mhm.
she talks about stepping on that line, being one of the top girls and feeling like she didn't belong. And it's like one of those things, and talking about like, and you've probably gone through these moments where you're at a very long, drawn out competition, right? Because people think pole vault, you go, you do it, you leave, but it's like you got to stay mentally in. Like it's a
Mhm.
difficult thing to stay mentally locked in for a half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever it is for that flight, right? And she
Mhm.
talked about a few times where she was on the track going, I could just fall or I could just get hurt. And I just, no one would get mad. I went for it. And it's like, and those moments happen. And so have you been in
Mhm.
those moments where you're sitting there and maybe you just had two bad jumps and you're on your final one and you're like, you know what? I gave it my shot. Like, like how do you get past those mental blocks?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. I think especially because too pole vault is such a fight. Like if you're not jumping clean, I mean every event is, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
but I think sometimes it's
You're
like
always
with
going to
pole
think your
vault,
event's the hardest. Everyone does, right?
right, right. Sometimes with pole vault, what I can say is like the fight of jumping, like having 3 attempts and you're not if you're not clean, like it's like every attempt is just if you're not having a day where it's just coming, I guess I don't want to say easy, but there are days you're really clean and
Feeling smooth. Yeah.
you're on and you're feeling smooth, and then there's other days that it's like you're taking 3 attempts or 2 attempts at every height, and it's just you start to get tired because
Yeah.
I mean we jump for usually an hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean it
You're
can be a
exerting a lot
while.
of
It depends.
energy. Yeah.
But yeah. And so to stay in it can be really tough. You almost check out if you're sitting for too long or something like
Mhm.
that. But just every time I get back on the runway, I try to think about my cues, and a lot of times I even say them. Like I know in some videos I'm like speaking out loud, and I'm just saying my same cues that can try to get my body to do that thing that I need it to do to jump high, and that's usually how I get through that.
Now I know when I'm watching the pole vault one on Peacock, I'm gonna make sure to look to see if you're speaking to yourself. I'm gonna make sure I watch and I'll clip that and I'll put it on Instagram for us. Like, there
Saying
she
her
is.
cues.
She said it. So one of the other things, what's it like being a veteran there, right? Because you're official, you're a veteran, and it's like, is it different now when like as opposed when you were first starting out, but now when you see officials and a bunch of the field people said you kind of see the same officials, like they kind
Yeah.
of specialize in what they do, and so is it like how different is it now? Going to an event, being one of the veterans, knowing the officials, and kind of knowing how things should be running, right? And like being one of those veteran voices where probably before you were kind of like, "Oh, is this going I shouldn't say anything." Like, what's that like being like kind of one of the veterans and, almost leaders of the pack in terms of knowing what's supposed to happen and the officials and all that fun stuff?
It's great because it just feels like, even more of a sense of that belonging. Like, the officials
They
and
say
they
you
know
say hi
your
to
name.
them, yeah.
Yeah, they usually know your name exactly. They say hi to you, and it's just it makes you feel comfortable. They're the people you're focused on, like trying to listen to before you get on the runway, and you trust them with setting up everything to where you need it to be. And so it does help to know everybody. And it's just I the officials that work the pole vault are very often, like, almost all of them are really, all of them that I know are very just helpful and like ready to do what we need them to do, and always like congratulatory when we go thank them at the end. They're always like so happy for
That's
us,
awesome.
and so it's really great to get to know them and know them by name for
I would
sure.
tell them to put sticky tack on the bar up top just to make sure even if you touch
Yeah.
it, it doesn't go over.
Right.
Like, add some sticky tack for me up there, will you? Like, give me
Get
a
some
little
bar
bit of an
love.
advantage. Get me some bar. Yeah, exactly. Give me a little something extra here.
Right.
So, in terms of getting up here, it's been you talked about that it's been a long road. This has been something you've been working your ass off for, and you finally accomplished it. And we've talked to a lot of, unsponsored athletes on this show. And they've all talked about the difficulties and different variations of having to balance work outside of being an athlete And if they're not working, they're like volunteer coaching in order to get access to facilities. Who isn't doing that has to pay for facilities, has to be with the coach and pay for your own shoes, pay for your own pole vaults and things like that.
Yeah.
What have been your personal challenges in terms of financial, personal life, training that gets you to this point? Because all anybody sees is you there with that pulling arm competing.
Mhm.
Nobody knows the behind the scenes outside of your friends and your family. So I want you to talk about the battles you've been having in order to get to this point as a pro athlete.
Yeah. It is very difficult to find, work that is reasonable time wise to be able to train and travel for training and do what you need to do, while also making the money you need to be able to compete and do those things and travel and get your flights and, as you said, just any of the other expenses of the sport. But I have been pretty lucky in being able to find. I work with kids, and so I've been able to find just a lot of different positions. I mean, I've had countless just different like jobs throughout the years, as I've been training. I've subbed. I've done like tutoring and brain training and homeschooling kids and um, yeah, and right now in Louisville, I mean it's summer, but I was subbing
Yeah.
before the summertime, and but yeah, I've had some really good experiences. I've kind of stuck to the teaching side of things to just gain experience in that and
Yep.
try to boost my resume there so that I can stay relevant to the to that, so that when I'm done, I obviously have something to do next, a career. But it is hard. It's hard to find something. Nothing, you know, not a lot of people are understanding of a schedule like what we have. That we're traveling, especially during the season, almost every weekend, and it's not usually close.
And I was
So
going to ask, so what is a lot of your job's reactions when you're like, "Hey, I'm a pro pole vaulter. I have this." Like, do they like kind of like look at you funny, like, "Wait, you're a pro athlete, but you're doing this?" Like, what has been like the responses? I don't think a lot of people understand. I think a lot of people think, "Oh, you're a pro athlete. You must live in a mansion." It's like, nope, nope, no, we don't.
yeah, right. Yeah, I've honestly been really lucky because I've worked a lot with directly with parents. Like I said, through the homeschooling and through the tutoring. And
Yeah.
anytime I tell parents what I'm doing, they are just in full support. They're like, tell us if you need whatever time to go travel somewhere. I know when I was back in Knoxville, I had just the best. It was a mom of the student that I homeschooled, and she just wanted me to be able to do my best, and she
That's
was
all.
so excited to be able to just watch my journey. And so just meeting people that have been flexible and telling them, I've just learned to tell them up front, like, this is what my schedule's going to look like, and as long as you're willing to be flexible, like, I'm willing to work whenever I'm here and to be there whenever I say I have the hours to be there. And I've been really lucky with that. I worked at a brain training center too, where they like kind of did a little news thing with me with like brain
Cool.
training, teaching, and training, and they
Nice.
like they really like to promote it and to
That's great.
encourage me to do it. So
So, in terms of also personal life, you don't have to get too personal, but what have you sacrificed to train and also work? And basically, you're moving when you're not sleeping, you're moving, right? So, like, what have
yeah.
been those type of sacrifices? You obviously just moved to a new place. So, in terms of, social life, significant others, all those things, like, what has been the sacrifice for you in terms of trying to chase your dream
Mhm.
and, trying to put this all together?
Yeah, I mean, I've moved quite a bit. I moved back from Pennsylvania. That's where I went to college, and that's my
Yeah.
hometown and or my home state. And so I moved there in 20 right after 2017, after that fifth year. And my fiance, which he was my fiance at the time. He and he is now. But I
That's so
moved.
good. Positive, positive. I'm pretty happy.
I
He's happy to hear that he still is. He was like, "Am I about to get broken up with on live stream? What the hell is this? I hate that show."
I hate that show. Yeah, I moved back from Pennsylvania to Tennessee, and so we did distance all that time. And then I moved, to Louisville only about 8 months ago. And so, I mean, there have been quite a few moves, but he has been supportive the entire time. And luckily, like, even though we were doing distance, he came to visit me all the time. And just because he knew how important the goal was, the dream was to me. And he's traveled literally across the country to drive my boat. One time he drove them to Albuquerque for
That's
me,
awesome.
and just he's been so supportive. And so I really couldn't be luckier with that. But yeah, he had his business that he was starting up in Pennsylvania, so that's part of why we did distance. And but now he's here in Louisville with me.
Nice, good.
But yeah, distance has been definitely part of the sacrifice. And obviously, like, putting a career on hold, like you said, has been, that's another sacrifice. Just,
Yep.
I know originally I wanted to get straight into teaching, and so, I've obviously been able to keep up my work resume that has been geared towards that, but I've put that on hold, of course.
Well, I'm happy you
So
did, because look at you now. Like, I'm
I
pumped that you did.
know,
It was a
yeah.
great decision, by the way, which a lot of
Thank
people
you.
probably would have looked at and been like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, no, I think you did. You made the right move. And you know what? I want to say about your fiance, there's nothing better as like a water cooler flex. And it's like, hey, my kid did great in a soccer tournament. Yeah, well, my fiance is competing to try and get in the Olympics. Get
Yeah.
out of here. Like, he has like the best flex of all time. So
Yes, he's so proud. He's so proud. So
I
I'm
can
very
imagine that.
lucky.
That's freaking awesome. So
Thank you.
the last thing that I want to throw at you before we jump out of here, because I've had a ton of fun. I could probably talk to you forever about track. But the last thing I want to throw at you is one question that I ask all of our guests. We try to ask and get a big group and different opinions. If you had a magic wand
Mhm.
and you could flick your wrist, boom, and do something magical that would make this sport better, to get more casual fans, and to make you guys make money, because obviously casual fans is what makes people make money, right? You get more casuals, you get more people watching at every meet, and then sponsors just want to boom, throw money at everyone that comes in, right? So
Mhm.
if you could do something to bring in more casual fans that would make this sport more lucrative and better, what would you do?
I think the live feeds have been really important for just promoting track and field, like accessibility to
Yeah.
viewing the competitions. I think has been huge, which it does seem like it's, people are starting to do that more. And of course, there's a lot of meets that have been promoting it in that way, like doing live streams or like showing it. I know a lot of the American Track League meets, they show it on sometimes ESPN2 or like different channels. But I think that really gets viewers and gets people, like, spreads awareness for the sport. So I think that's important. But I kind of like what you're saying about, how we talked about just even like bringing people together
Yeah.
on teams. I almost think that, there could be something for the people that aren't yet sponsored, some type of, whether it's like program or team, that we all kind of come together and something along those lines, because it is hard. It's hard to break through that barrier sometimes, that barrier to sponsorship and funding when
I
you're
have the greatest,
yeah.
corniest idea that will get you guys notoriety. You ready for this? You guys make a group of you that whenever you see each other at meets, you guys become like the unsponsored heroes, and you wear capes and you go in there with the most like ridiculous outfits, like superhero outfits, and you compete in them. But you would definitely get noticed, especially as you guys are like winning meets. Like everyone should, like, you
That's
guys should
cute.
create like an unsponsored hero thing and just come in there and just make noise.
I love that.
Because what do you have to lose, right? Like, what do you have
Right,
to lose? Like,
because
I
we're
know,
not
like,
wearing, specific uniforms anyway. If we have some type of team, that'd be great. The
we
unsponsored
interviewed
heroes.
Elena Bruckner, and she competes in a skirt as a discus thrower just because she's like, why the hell not? It looks awesome. I feel great. I feel like I look fantastic. So she always competes in a skirt, and I'm pretty she's probably doing it at nationals because that's something Elena started to do, and she's freaking awesome. But I feel like you guys can come together and do something really cool. Now, how do you feel
Yeah.
about Michael Johnson's league? Michael Johnson has his league that he's starting, and that you didn't hear about that. He secured like $30 million for
Wow.
money. He's doing a whole bunch of things with prize money. He wants to do contracts. Cindy McLaughlin Lavoni is signed
Wow.
in as a first athlete to do like contracts, and also Kirk Berridge of Trackstar.me is starting the Trackstar League, which he wants to do regional teams and have guaranteed money and things like that. So we're seeing some movement.
That's great. That's great to hear. There was actually something that was kind of being talked about in just between like in the track and field community about there was kind of an opportunity like that for like a league and
I heard
it
about that. They had
really
a
didn't.
draft a few years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we all kind of, I mean, it was exciting to be talked about, but it didn't end up coming to fruition. But it was one of those things that it was like, that is what we need. You know, that is the type of, just like you're talking about, these people that are starting to put together, you know, like a league like that or like a team. I think that that would be really, really good for track and field. And the good thing is, like, it's been really cool to watch the growth of track and field. I
Yeah.
mean, over just even since I was in high school, even college, I mean, so many clubs are starting
Mhm.
to get so many more athletes. I mean, I know a lot of them I can think of are pole vault clubs, but I mean, that has brought so many just athletes that are aware of like these different street meets and different opportunities that obviously grow the sport, like Reno or and you know some of the meets I know I wanted to mention while we were on here. Just I mean, like we've got Jersey Jumps, you got Rochester Street Vault, Dolphin Street Vault, the Ed Murphy Classic in Memphis, and like I always tell kids like go to those because those are opportunities where you can network, you can meet coaches, you can meet other vaulters, you can obviously like jump and get to talk to who knows. I mean, sometimes you meet um, you know, like meet directors that will then invite you to another meet. And that's honestly over the years, that's what I've learned is super important to network and meet people because I mean, through those connections, that's where you find out about all of these opportunities.
You guys should bring some mini pole vaults and like a mini setup so people try and pole vault over the small one. Just regular, like average Joes try and do like a 5 feet pole vault and just
They
let them experience how difficult that even is before ever trying to get over the big one. Just so like I feel like the average Joes could do something like that.
Yeah, well, sometimes at these meets they do have
That's
like
good.
they do let I guess not normally like pole vault. I know there was that Adidas Atlanta City Games this year that I went to and they I think they had some spectators sprinting.
Yeah. We need to
So
do more of that.
it's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, they definitely do more of that. And so I don't know, the American Track League, one thing that I don't know if they do, but they should do. And if you ever talk to Paul Doyle, we'd love to have Paul on the show because he's awesome. But
Yeah.
just the fact that he's doing it is great. We love that. But they need to start putting it out live stream on YouTube, live stream on Twitch, live stream on X, and promote that. Because you know what? Getting on ESPN, getting on CBS, NBC, that's hard. Fox,
Yeah.
ABC, that's hard. But all the other stuff is free.
Right.
You just need a YouTube account and you can live stream it. And the ATL has enough numbers that they should be able to unlimited live stream, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like that would be a good way to then have like be like make it in the thing. If you come to our meet, you must promote that we are live here. And I don't think that's something that any of the athletes would say no to. Like we're coming to win prize money at your meet. We will absolutely say watch on X, Twitch, or YouTube. Here's
Oh,
the link on my social media to watch the meet. And I feel like that would help grow eyes. I feel like one of the issues is, and flow track people hate me for this, the paywall sucks. Peacock, the paywall sucks. It's hard to do the
yeah.
paywall stuff. Like not everyone has the extra money. Everyone has $30 a month to have flow track. Okay. It's like
Mhm.
you want you get different things. So it's like
Right.
I feel like if ATL can do that, if someone, if you ever talk to Paul before we do, but it's like do it on YouTube live, do it on Twitch, do it on X.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the live streaming is something huge that,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that who's the Flow Vault, there's been
Mhm.
this, yeah, Flow Vault has done a pretty good job
Yeah.
just doing a lot of like live stream stuff. And I do think that that helps a lot, like, you know, just situations like that. But meets that have like the live coverage, it's just, I think that's really good, because I know a lot of people that always ask me, you know, before I go to a meet, and a
Where
lot
can
of
I
times
watch you?
family, friends, yeah, where can I watch? And a lot of times nowhere.
Good question.
um,
I'll set
but
up my phone and I'll start a live stream every time I jump. There you go.
right,
Like,
but a lot of times there, I mean, it's over the years that I've done it, it's like getting more and more. So I do think it's improving. It's just probably taking time, but I think that that would really, that would help the sport a lot. You know, the more that we can show that, and we can like show people what we're doing, and be able to have the competition out there. I think that's important for the sport.
and the last idea I want to throw out, and I steal this from Clayton Murphy because he mentioned it on the show. He goes to local high schools or wherever he is, and he does his workout at the high school.
Mhm.
And like he'll include some of the other athletes like that are there and be like, "Hey, can you pace me through 200 of this first workout?" Like, and like they'll have to go and see that he's running like 27-second 200s for his long workout. Would you consider like going now? I know it's difficult with pole vault because not all high schools have very good pole vaulting things and it could get dangerous. But like, would you ever consider like with you and your coach, like calling up a high school and being like, "Hey, I want to show up and do a practice here." And then like maybe after they're done or whatever, you go on and anyone that wants to hang around, you could sign autographs. Like, "Hey, come watch me here and I'll sign your autograph," and things like that. And just to get more exposure, right? Just to get ourselves out there. And if you go to like a bunch of high schools and gain new fans and go kick some guys' asses that are doing pole vault there, and they're just like, "Oh, shoot." Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that's an idea that Clayton does that I feel like all like athletes in track should possibly do to like spread this so they could see like that's what a professional looks like. Like it's
Right.
a different type of training.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, that was kind of what Katie Moon's meet was, but on a
Yeah.
larger scale, obviously,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
like at a high school, and but I think that would be cool to like you said, just go as, you know, one person and go. And I've done that at, you know, if I'm training somewhere or traveling, I'll go and I'll do like my running workout there, or something like that. I've done that in the past, and then I meet people, or like the athletic director. I did that once when I was on vacation in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I met them, and so then they had like other people come out and meet me, and they were so excited to have me there. And people appreciate that, and they like to
And yeah,
see it.
make it a big deal. Put it on social media. If you know you're going to go there, be like, "Hey,
Yeah,
I'll be here. I'll be happy to sign autographs and, come
yeah,
do a workout with me." Like,
that's a
come
great
see what it takes
idea.
to be a pro.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, I feel like if I was a runner, it might be a little more versatile. With vaulting, it you just do have the limitations of, you know, certain pits, and not
Exactly. And like
knowing
I
what it
said,
looks like till you get there.
calling the AD, and I feel like in most ADs would be honest and be like, "Yeah, this isn't fit for a high schooler to really be in it. Don't come do it." Like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, but
yeah,
if you could, I feel like honestly, it would be like if for me, even as like a guy who was a middle distance runner, if I was like, "Whoa, what are you saying? There's a pro female pole vaulter coming and she's going to do a workout at the pole vault. I'm going to stay and watch. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to stay after school and watch that. That's kind of awesome." So I feel like that
That's
could be,
true. There would be good circumstances to be able to make that happen if they have a good facility, for sure. So that's a great idea.
yeah, I try. I try to, that's the goal here. The goal, our goal has shifted to this show to be promoting the sport better, promoting athletes like
Mhm.
yourself who deserve it and who should be someone who you and your fiance should be living in a small mansion at least because you're a pro athlete and you should be like, like signing bonuses in football where they're like, "Oh, they're only making $400,000 a year for being practice squad." It's like, "Okay, can we please? We'll take 100K a year, like on the
Yeah,
track field. Like
right.
we'll take 50K a year just to be guaranteed to run 6 meets, like or compete in 6 meets. Like we're not asking for much here. We just want
Yeah.
consistency,
Or
right?
just
Like
break even to travel to and compete or
just
something.
pay for my travel and give me some new shoes every once in a while, please." Like,
Yeah.
oh man. But
Yeah.
Marissa, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was lots of fun.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say, I mean, of course, I've been very lucky to have, a really good support system around me. And I'm sure, I think that's what it takes for a lot of track and field athletes because, you don't really have until you break through that barrier and get, that goal that you're trying to get to with sponsorship and funding. I think that, you got to have people around you ready to help and ready to support you if you need it. And I'm very lucky to have, my family cheering me on and of course, coaches that are just willing to put in the time and everything. So.
And big shout out to Phil Grove for helping out making this connection.
Yes,
Phil, you're the best.
definitely.
We
Phil's the
appreciate
best.
you, and we're blessed here talking in Nobles to have people that are believing in the show and what we do, and we just hope to every week try and make a difference, and one day deliver for the sport and deliver for pro athletes like yourself, and say that we made a difference, along with other great things like Flow Track, Citius Mag, and things like that. Runner Space and places that are really trying to do something for the sport. So, once again, she's Marissa Kalsey. She is a pro pole vaulter, and definitely go out. If you don't have Peacock, go get it now so you can watch her compete. What day? You're leaving tomorrow. What day is the first day of qualifiers?
The first day of qualifiers is Friday, the 28th. I fly out tomorrow, and then I compete Friday the 28th, and then the second day, once I make it into the top 12,
You will. You will.
and that will be on Sunday the 30th.
All right, so definitely go check it out. I know I'll be watching on Friday. Instead of doing my job, I'll be like watching the little simulcast and cheering you on. And I think everyone else should. And again, shout out to all the other athletes that already competed that we've had on or that are going to compete. We're rooting for all of you to make the team. If we could sit there and bring our own team to the Olympics, we would bring the Talking in Ovals team, but we can't. But once again, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everyone for if you're listening to this on a podcast later, thank you as well. If you're watching on X, repost, follow us. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, share the show, Facebook people. We thank all of you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with more fun guests, and hopefully we are talking about all of our individuals, including Marissa, that are on their way to Paris. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We appreciate you all.